You are listening to Mobile Payments Today podcast. Are you a supplier or a brand working to elevate the customer experience? The Interactive Customer Experience Association connects brands, suppliers, agencies, and more who are working to create transcendent customer experiences. Let's work together to create a better customer experience ecosystem for us all. Join the ICX Association today at icxa.org.
Good afternoon. This is David Jones with Mobile Payments Today. We've got a really interesting guest for you this month. We're going to be sitting down with Mark Bunney, who is Director of Market Strategy with Ingenico. This is a really important company in the global cross-border and e-commerce payments area. Their company is based in France, but is truly touches on every single market around the globe. They've been doing some really interesting things in the retail space, as well as other areas like public transit, voice control technology, kiosks, a few other critical areas of the business. We're also going to be talking about some of the activity we've seen in the business in the last few months, including a couple of the major acquisition deals, some of the trends we're seeing going forward. Please join us, and you'll find this a very interesting conversation. Thank you.
The Interactive Customer Experience Association's mission is to connect B2C brands to technology that elevates the customer experience. Brands have access to resources, project help, news, and insights based around boosting their customer experience. Suppliers gain network opportunities to reach these brands and help them provide solutions to elevate their customer experience. Join today at icxa.org.
Good afternoon. Thanks for, again, joining us at Mobile Payments Today. This is David Jones. We have an exciting guest this afternoon, Mark Bunney, Director of Market Strategy at Ingenico. Mark, we want to thank you for appearing with us this afternoon. Pleasure to meet you in person.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, David, and thank you for having me today. I really look forward to talking about some of the things that's happening in the market that can impact all of our experiences from a payments perspective.
Why don't you do us a favor a little bit and give us a little kind of quick overview of your company's position in the market and how you participate in the payment space, just to give a little flavor of, your perspective.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm more than happy to. So Ingenico Group is a global payment solution provider. So we actually provide really all the components that can make up a payments transaction, not only from online, as well as card present or more the in-store solution. So this is taking, could be software, could be payment devices, as well as different gateway solutions to offer payments really around the world. So today we're in 170 countries and really try to provide the best possible experience for any retailer around the world.
So you're dealing in large part with the retail community. In terms of the players, who are you touching? I mean, are you touching, the payment providers, banks, retailers, end users? I mean, who are you kind of mainly touching here?
Yes, and yes. Short answer. So, probably first, when I say retail, we typically are very much a vertically orientated company. So we work in many different verticals. So it could be retail, hospitality, healthcare, or even vending, or more we call self-service type of solutions. The payments ecosystem is dependent upon each country. I'll maybe answer it from a U.S. perspective. From a U.S. perspective, we're working with processors, gateways, software providers, sometimes banks, but not always the banks, it's more the processors, as well as the end users themselves. So we are touching all the different participants as part of the payment solution.
I got you. Okay. You're probably aware of, there's been a lot of movement just within the last few months in the payment space. It's a little frightening, actually, how quickly things have been moving in the last few weeks. We've had a couple of, blockbuster announcements just recently in terms of consolidation in the business,
Mm-hmm.
talking the first data deal back in January where they were acquired for 22 billion and this new deal with WorldPay. Wanted to get your take just because, the timing couldn't have been more perfect. Why do you think this is happening? And what does this mean for selfishly for your companies like yours and
Mm-hmm.
for anyone participating in the business right now? I mean, what is going on?
I think the consolidation around the mergers and acquisitions, this has been going on for a number of years.
Yeah.
So we've been watching many different companies either acquiring capabilities that maybe they don't have, so kind of filling a particular gap in from a solution perspective, to kind of some more of the more recent ones where now they're adding almost adjacent type of products and solution sets. I think with some of the ones that you mentioned with the Fiserv First Data and then FIS and WorldPay, this is really going to that next phase, which is it's less about consolidation and more about providing a much more vertically integrated,
Right.
as well as even global solution set. I think you look at the Fiserv and FIS, these are much more kind of bank-focused solutions, and now they're adding to the portfolio. Again, processing, or it could be gateways, or even in some cases software too. So I think they're looking to try to better compete in the market.
Sure.
There are definitely new entrants in the market that are changing things, as well as the market as a whole. Very, very dynamic, moving very, very fast. So I think that's what's driving a lot of the change. I mean, from an Ingenico perspective, I mean, we don't view this as really impacting us. If anything, it's probably more opportunities where maybe in the past we would talk to a particular provider and they may not be interested in say our e-commerce type offer. Well, now with their business evolving or changing, it could be an opportunity for us to partner more closely. So I think it's definitely an area of opportunity. I think even some of those companies, their competitors, I think is probably an opportunity for them, because anytime you go through a very large acquisition, it creates you're going to make changes, but that can also create opportunities for other players in the market. So that's why we believe these are opportunities for not only Ingenico but many companies in the market.
Give us a little bit of flavor in terms of, it's a very complicated chain in terms of, figuring out the various touch points of, the payments technology. Where do you guys, in terms of your strength, your touch points, where do you fit in mainly? Where are various companies going to see you?
So, I mean, where we focus within the payments ecosystem is really from the range of from the processor, gateway, ISV, into the end user. So we're touching the entire part of the ecosystem. Our solution set doesn't necessarily touch the banks as closely, even though in some cases they can be customers. They can use some of our solutions and technologies to meet different use cases. But we're going to continue to focus in those areas. I don't think some of these changes really impact us directly, other than if we're working with one of those players in the ecosystem, they may not be able to stay as focused in the market versus maybe more internally focused as they go through an integration effort. I think what will be really interesting with all of this is these are very, very large potential acquisitions. They've been announced, they haven't been approved.
Right.
And will the government regulations, will they be approved?
Are you suggesting that there may be some caveats? They may have to break some of this stuff up?
You never know. That's always a possibility. I mean, it's happened with smaller acquisitions before. So yes, I mean, I think that's a variable to all this. I mean, you didn't mention, but there was even a recent one. I think two of the big banks, SunTrust and BB&T.
Yes.
Merging together. So there's definitely when any of these are tens of billions of dollars from an acquisition, there's a lot of different variables that can impact how that comes to fruition at the end of the day. But yeah, this is definitely an interesting time in the market. But I mean, I think that's where we look at it. We're touching so much of the ecosystem today. It has an impact, but also I think opens up more opportunities.
Okay. Another hot area in the business, and this touches on the reason why I bring it up, is that kind of gotten into contactless and some of these other areas. There's been a big issue with cash in the business. It's been kind of crossed over from a tech issue to a social issue and an economic issue.
Right.
You may be aware, just in the last few days. I mean, there was a bill signed in New Jersey. I think it was either yesterday or the day before, to ban access cashless retail and restaurants in the state of New Jersey. Just recently, there was a ban in Philadelphia. There's a bill in New York, and there have been issues in the UK with concerns about the move towards faster payments, with reduced ATM access. Just the ability to get cash by consumers and by small business, and whether or not you're going to leave an entire sector of society by the wayside here. I'm curious, given what the business that you're in, how you see that whole thing playing out.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic because I think over the last few years, people have been asking, well, what's going to happen with cash? I mean, again, depending upon which analyst you look at, it's probably 25, maybe 30% of the transactions today in the U.S. are still cash-based. Right. So it's still a very large portion of the market. I think what's interesting, you look at it from a merchant perspective, is they have to understand who their customer is.
Sure.
And if you go to the extreme, it's like, you know what, we're only going to do credit card, debit card type of transactions and not support cash, is what portion of their audience is going to go away? Right. Because I mean, maybe it's you or I, and it's like, yeah, we love a particular restaurant and going in, and typically we use a credit card most times. But maybe one time it's like, oh, you know what, I forgot my credit card, but I have cash, I want to use cash. Well, if a restaurant or a retailer isn't able to accept it, what does that have limitation for them in their available market from a perspective there? I think if you look at it, there's definitely an economic variable here where again, you have some people who are underbanked or not banked, not able necessarily to be able to buy goods and services. And I don't think that's what people are trying to do by going more cashless. I think they're trying to provide that best possible experience. Yeah. I think this is what's going to happen with this is probably going to open up opportunities for companies to figure out ways. Well, how can we provide, maybe it's a prepaid type of card model where we can give the ability to others that don't have a bank account or that use cash more often,
like the green dot card, for example, maybe something like that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's those types of things that I think that creates opportunity there. I mean, while we continue, Ingenico sees a continuous decrease usage in cash, it's still a very key component. So we don't believe it's going to go away, and you're going to see it. I mean, it's most recently here in Atlanta, one of the major stadiums decided to go away from Mercedes-Benz, exactly. Decided to go away from cash, and again, I think they also thought through. It's like, well, most of their customer base, again, credit cards are very prevalent, so that's not a challenge. But I think they also implemented other options for someone. Okay, maybe they are more cash focused versus credit focused, and it gives them the ability to put money on different cards, that type of thing. So I think merchants have to think about it and what makes the most sense for their customer. I mean, anything I've seen really in my career from like new technologies, going from say like in the music area, LP to CD to online. These trying to morph from one to the next takes a long time.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen overnight, and again, it's like, I mean, cash is still very, very prevalent. So it's not going away tomorrow. So, but I think as a society, we have to balance. It's like the benefit of for the merchant, for the consumer, but also look at the entire consumer base. It's like make sure everyone can participate there. So again, I think this is again an evolution. We'll see how much it takes off, because I believe at the end of the day, today many merchants probably won't go down this path because it limits that customer base for them.
Right.
But over time, if it gets down to 10% is cash, many more merchants may decide, you know what, the cost of cash isn't worthwhile, and you need to go down that path. But it's definitely an interesting trend in the market.
Yeah, let me ask you this. If I'm a small independent merchant and I'm up against all of these, e-commerce companies that are expanding and offering cashless and, so you're saving the cost of a human cashier, you're able to move a transaction faster without people standing in line. Should I be a little concerned that I may get left behind as a merchant?
I think every merchant needs to look at who their customer is and what does their customer base really, really want. It's interesting. E-commerce is definitely a big focus, but most people don't realize it's less than 20% of the retail transactions in the U.S. are e-commerce based. So it's not 80% of the transactions are online. People still want an in-store experience. So if a merchant can make sure that in-store experience is a killer, awesome experience, they're gonna continue to be able to grow. I think another variable, and I don't know if a lot of people understand this, is while an e-commerce transaction can make it a very seamless experience, the cost to a merchant is higher for e-commerce than a card present or in-person transaction. So these are variables you have to balance. It's like, again, it may be a better experience, but if that cost is so much higher, it's like that may not work best for many merchants. But I think every merchant has to look at it. It's like who their customer is. How do they want to do the transaction?
Right.
I've seen recently on the millennials where I think it was like 60-70% of their transactions start online, but then ends up in a store.
Right.
So that's really where it's like, oh, you got to be thinking about that. So and that's where I think many retailers today are thinking, how do they provide that best unified commerce experience? So it's like, hey, whether it's online, whether it's mobile, whether it's in store, making it so it works very, very well for their consumers is what the retailers have to really think about.
Let me ask you a couple of things that you guys have been doing in the contactless and cashless area. Just I think you were at Mobile World Congress like a few weeks ago, and you're doing a tap on phone proof of concept, secure NFC. Give me a little flavor as to where you're going with that.
One of the key kind of new initiatives or technologies is it's being driven by the PCI Council from an industry perspective. It's called PIN on Mobile. So they also like to call it PIN on COTS, which is commercial off-the-shelf solutions. But it's enabling payments, and because the rest of the world is chip and PIN, the ability to enter a PIN on a consumer smartphone or tablet-based device. So it's how can we enable, again, via software as well as services, the ability anywhere in the world to be able to enter that PIN very securely. So tap on phone, the PIN on mobile, different initiatives really enable more of that mobile experience without having to have maybe that normal PIN pad so you can enter a PIN. So it's enabling the mobile use case much more broadly around the world. I think from a U.S. perspective, we probably won't see the same level of adoption, at least in the near term, just because we don't need a PIN to be able to do a transaction because we're a chip and sign country. So if even someone has a debit card and you don't use a PIN, it still gets run as a credit card transaction. So it doesn't have the same ramification, but everywhere else around the world, I think this is going to really be a great enabler for anyone to offer payments in a much more of a mobile setting. So I think it's a great opportunity, and we're excited to be able to offer different really technologies, tools, and services to enable our partners and customers to be able to provide that.
Okay, and you guys have been working with some new technologies, IBM Watson chatbots, and you've also been doing some stuff with voice. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I'm not as maybe as close to the chatbots on the Watson side. The voice is something that I'm a little more familiar with, a little bit closer, but it's kind of looking at from the consumer, where what makes it the easiest, seamless experience from a payments perspective. So if you can use your voice to be able to interact and have a better experience from a payments perspective, it's like, okay, I think that's a great way of doing it. Back in fall of last year at Money 2020, we were actually showing a proof of concept around facial recognition. Again, another way for the consumer to interact, to be able to do payments. Again, new approaches. I think they have variations on privacy that are now starting to come up and come to the forefront of everyone's mind. How is that working? So it's definitely an exciting time. Lots of new technologies, and even with like the IBM Watson and chatbots, that's leveraging kind of the data analytics, AI capability, artificial intelligence.
Right.
So how does that enable a better experience? So our team out of Paris, our Innovation Labs group, they're looking at all these different technologies as well as partnering with different companies to how do we keep up with the market and where the market's looking to go. Okay. And I think that's the toughest thing for everyone. It's like everything's moving fast. We may know as a consumer, this is how I want the experience to be. Tomorrow, next week, our minds change. The way we want to engage changes. So that's what we're trying to keep up and looking at different technologies and approaches to provide that best consumer experience.
Earlier this year, you announced this agreement with Pyramid on connected kiosks. Is that something that you were involved in?
Unfortunately, I was not involved with that one, so I'm not going to be able to go into detail on that one.
Okay. There was one other thing I wanted to ask you in terms of some of your recent announcements, public transit.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that because we've been writing a good deal about contactless payments in public transit, and you made some announcements, mass transit in London. Can you talk a little bit about what you're doing in that area?
Yeah, so this is a really kind of an exciting new market area, and I think it follows the theme of people want to start a transaction, but then also be able to complete it. And in the past, we've been looking at, well, how's that looking in store? Maybe it's online. Now it's really opening up new opportunities, whether it could be in subway systems, bus or train transit, where it's like, okay, well, how do we make it easy from the consumer to be able to do payments and then be able to use the transportation system? So this is kind of a collaboration of not only Ingenico technologies and products to enable that, but also then working with different partners to provide the complete solution. So we've done some things over Europe. We're also working up in Canada today. So there's different mass transit systems that are looking at this, where it's ironic because it makes it a much easier experience for being able to do contactless, which again is very prevalent in Canada. But then it comes back to like, okay, well, how are people going to use these systems if they're cash? That question's going to come back up, I think, in this area. Yeah. But it's definitely, Canada is a very high contactless usage country, so they're very excited because again, if you're getting onto a subway, being able to pull out your card, or it could be one of the e-wallets and be able to touch and go, great experience. So we think that's going to be picking up all around the world. Canada, Europe is very contactless. It will eventually also come to the U.S. U.S. is probably a little bit further out, just because today you don't have a lot of contactless cards.
Right.
So contactless is all done through more of the e-wallets from either Apple or Android, whatever it may be. But as more cards become available, that will change the dynamic a little bit.
I know Chase
and probably
announced that they're going to start having contactless, rolling out contactless this year, and some other banks are working on it as well.
Yeah, exactly. Some of the issuers are starting. It's going to take some time to get kind of the level of adoption that's out there. And then I think it's also going to be some education for consumers, because I don't think people are realizing contactless takes us back to the days of the MSR, where it's swiping it, but in this case it's tapping and you're done. So it's a great experience, but I don't know if consumers necessarily understand that. So that's really where maybe mass transit could help drive and help educate the market. It's like, hey, I'm looking at a new validator or a new contactless area. I can use that to pay to get onto the subway or the train or the bus. So that I think that opens up great opportunities and helps to keep everything moving forward from a technology perspective.
Why do you think contactless and kind of the digital payments has failed to take on, life in the U.S. the way it has in other parts of the world?
So I think it's an evolution right now. If you look at when the U.S. market back in October of 2015 went to EMV Contact, right, which is the card insertion, that was the first step. And in most cases, many customers or partners weren't necessarily implementing contactless. They were just trying to offer EMV. A few years after that, I think customers were really looking at contactless. Yeah. So you have, if you look at the payments ecosystem, contactless is much more a normal part of the process today. It's still new. I mean, I think it's going to evolve over time, but it's not something that's earth-shattering from a solution set perspective. I think in order for contactless to really gain that adoption, it's going to have to be at the card level. That's why you go into Canada or you go over to the UK or France, contactless cards are the standard. Well, here in the US, they're not. So while I think the adoption of smartphones is at 70-80% in the US, people aren't using smartphones for their contactless experience. So I think if the market can address getting the cards out there, that will definitely really improve the number of contactless usage or transactions, as well as I think it will even help e-wallet momentum there too. So from our perspective, we believe that probably 2021 or later, you'll start to see a lot more momentum with contactless, because you'll have those cards in the market and people will be using it. I mean, David, if you looked in your wallet, I mean, how many contactless cards do you have today? You may have one, right, or you may have none. Versus you almost got to get to that point where it's like I have 4 out of 5 my cards are contactless, or 3/4 of them are, whatever the number. You have to have mostly contactless cards to really drive that experience, I believe.
Are there security concerns that people have, based on, things like, the Marriott hack, that type of thing? I mean, is that still an issue?
I mean, well, they're actually two different variables. So from a contactless perspective, I mean, there is a theme in the market. Well, I'm now transmitting information that is in a wireless form. Yeah. So I think people always get concerned. Oh, I'm doing that. But the reality is it's a very secure technology. So I think it will take time for people to adopt. You mentioned the Marriott breach. I mean, and that we believe is probably a bigger concern in the market than, okay, can people take credit card information from contactless cards? You got to remember, the bad guys, they're looking at volume of cards. They don't want to get onesie twosies. They need tens of thousands of cards, because that's how they make their money.
Right.
With a Marriott scenario, it's like, I mean, they're looking at the back end, the infrastructure, the servers, the back offices, so they can get access to all of that information. And that's where we see a theme. It's like, I mean, merchants, the retailers, the hoteliers, the restaurants, they need to be thinking about how can they protect that information or make that information not valuable at all. So that's why we recommend, from like if someone is implementing, say, an in-store type of solution, these are all encrypted technologies or encrypted transactions. So now, even if someone steals that data, they can't break the point-to-point encryptions, not very easily at least. So that data becomes worthless. Okay. So that's where we recommend when we're talking with customers is they need to look at lots of different approaches to protect that information, but you want to make sure you're making it worthless anywhere within their environment. And I think more and more merchants are learning, but I think if anything, it's still very much at the top of mind for many customers because of the number of breaches that are still occurring in the market.
Okay. Is there something in the payment space that you anticipate taking place this year that would surprise people, that was not on everybody's radar screen? But
I don't see anything on the near-term horizon that will be revolutionary.
Yeah.
I think it's, in a lot of cases, it's very evolutionary.
Yeah.
I mean, it's things such as, a couple of things that we see. So one is especially the balance between the in-store and the online experience. We call it kind of almost like the retail renaissance. Right. From the standpoint of is merchants need to start thinking and investing in that in-store experience. In addition to online, they need to have both, but it's like the in-store experience is not going away. And I think people over the last few years, everyone thought e-commerce was going to be the only way to do transactions. It's not. It's one approach, and it's again very high growth, but it's not the only way that the consumer wants to interact with a merchant. So I think that's one variable that's there. The other one that is, I think we believe is very exciting is merchants are making the investment, and maybe it's at their point of sale system itself. How is that evolving within the store? So it's going to maybe fewer POS stations, but maybe more mobile solutions, so they can interact with the consumer anywhere within their environment and be able to take payment at the end of that transaction.
At a store or at a stadium, sitting in a restaurant, they can, somebody can walk up to them and, take their payment.
Right. Versus I think in many concepts today is people have to go into a line and do that transaction. And for some environments, that's not how the consumer wants that experience to be. So I think mobile is definitely, we're going to see more and more momentum, but it's not revolutionary from the standpoint of is a completely new mobile technology. It's just, I think adoption and usage will gain more and more traction in the market.
All right, great. One last question to wrap up. Is there something that we should anticipate from your company that we may be a little surprised by?
Well, in Ingenico, we're always looking at how do we provide the best kind of merchant as well as consumer experience with payments. We're trying to look ahead and not, again, necessarily look at what's happened in the past, but how can we best provide that customer engagement. So a lot of our energy and focus right now is how do we improve that customer engagement? And I think that's where we're putting our energies, because that's, at the end of the day, that's what we're all interested in. We want the best possible experience. So that's again how we're looking at, from a solution perspective, how do we better enable that for our end users and merchants. So stay tuned again, but that's some of the things we're looking at and focusing on to provide that optimal experience. And again, it continues to morph, it changes.
Great. Well, I wanted to say thank you again to Mark Bunney, Director of Market Strategy at Ingenico. Look forward to staying in touch with you guys over the next few weeks and months. Do you have any thing to break to us anytime in the next few months, you know how to reach us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. We appreciate it.